What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Team Chat Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Jerrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan.
How's it going?
And to my left, virtually, Zachary Parks.
Beep, beep, boop. What's up?
He's a robot
Virtual
in a computer
Zach.
across the internets. But he's here with us today
right.
for this episode. And in case you did not know, Team Chat Podcast is a video game podcast where we talk about games, the ones we love, the ones we hate, and everything in between. You want to get in contact with us? Well, you can do that by going to teamchatpodcast@gmail.com and sending us an email there, following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and subscribing to our YouTube and iTunes channels. You want to support the show? You can also do that by going to patreon.com/teamchatpodcast, where for as little as $1 a month, you can support the show. And in return, we will give you a cool perk, like getting the episode early before our general Tuesday release. And should we tell them about the new little tidbit?
Are you going to finish
Well,
that
I mean, you were
sentence, or are you just going to...
kind of be the one who was heading it up.
What's
so.
the new tidbit?
Oh, yeah, he doesn't even know.
I don't even
You
know.
haven't told
This
him.
loser doesn't even know. Something that I do personally all the time because of the Splatoon community and because Nintendo really doesn't have a usable or convenient online gaming chat platform. I thought it might be a good idea for us to start offering a exclusive Discord server to the listeners of the show. So from now on, we're going to have Team Chat Podcast Discord server. All you have to do is subscribe at the $1 tier on Patreon.
$1 tier and above. So
Yeah, $1
basically,
and above.
Lowest amount higher gets access.
So that's going to be an excellent way for you to submit feedback to the show, submit questions, bandy around topics that you want us to talk about, or just shit all over us. So you
Or
can
share
be like,
funny
you
memes.
guys suck. Or share fun memes.
Meme.
I love memes, memes.
Memes.
All the SpongeBob
Mayonnaise.
ones, the better, and you'll win a lot of points with Zach and Mogan.
Yeah, so all you have to do is subscribe for $1 and up, and you will gain access to the exclusive TCP Patreon Discord.
Boom.
Cool.
There you have it, as well as getting the episodes early before the general Tuesday release. Now, we did have a song contest winner last week. The hint I provided was Aye Matey. Correctly
The
guessed.
hint that Sam provided.
Which you'll see on the Facebook page. I gave the hint in
You
the normal
did-
post, and
you
then I gave
did
her
give her
credit,
credit.
as being the one who thought of it, because credit is due where credit's due. But the hint was Aye Matey. Game was correctly guessed by Dylan Biles as Assassin's Creed Black Flag. So, Dylan, send us a song and hint for a future episode, and stick around to the end of this episode where you will hear a hint from Brandon Weaver. All right. On to the main topic of today's show.
I'm really excited to talk about this.
I am too.
I know you've been really enjoying the game, and I have been loving it as well. I think I caught up to where you are.
Okay.
So why don't you go on ahead and introduce the game?
All right. So what we want to talk about today, and there's a special reason we want to do this. End of this month, in August 31st, Life is Strange Before the Storm is coming out. And so Mogan and I have been wanting to play the original Life is Strange for a while. And so we finally did with this new game coming out, buckle down and play. I played through 2 episodes of the game already.
I have done exactly the same. So I actually finished episode 2 just today.
Okay, cool.
So I woke up early, finished it out so that we could both be on the same page and we wouldn't either of us be ahead of the other. So I think we're on a good note.
So
Oh, well done.
yeah, so we power through Life is Strange. And so I'll start this off by saying I did not anticipate liking this game as much as I do.
I anticipated liking it this much, but I am still pretty blown away by how intense and in-depth it is.
Yes.
I knew that I was going to like it based on what I knew of it in advance, just from online communities and stuff like that, but it really is turning out to be full of surprises and a really great gaming experience. So
Right.
I'm really excited to finish it. I think this is one of those games that even I, as a notorious non-game finisher, probably will finish because I want to get to the end of the mystery.
Yeah.
I gotta know.
So I went into this, and I've said it a couple times before on the show, I'm not a huge fan of episodic games. This game has 5 episodes.
Yes.
I tried playing, now granted I hadn't played that many episodic games. The main one that I tried getting into was Telltale's The Walking Dead series. And I don't know, I just didn't connect with that type of game really. It was
Me neither.
or maybe with Walking Dead especially, like I couldn't really get into it that much. But so I've always been a little wary of episodic games. But now this one, I started it, and it's making me a fan of episodic games.
Now-
Especially because it's a big callback just in play style to old point-and-click adventures like the old LucasArts ones, like the Indiana Jones games, Day of the Tentacle, stuff like that.
But that doesn't really necessarily match quite what what the episodic format is, and it's worth at least mentioning that you and I are playing it as the complete game.
Right.
We are both playing the finished version with all 5 episodes already being available.
Right.
I love the game, but I stand by my dislike of episodic video game presentation in that I would not have bought Life is Strange as episode 1 and then continued on
to buy.
Knowing my personal gaming style, A, I might not have started that ever in the first place. I would have gone, no thanks. Or B, I may have started the first episode and then lost interest by the time episode 2 did eventually come out.
Because I feel like there's only normally like a month or so, because they already obviously have them all done. It's not like you play and release episode 1, and then they're like, oh, okay, we'll wait like another year before episode 2. It's normally a month or so before. But no, I would definitely have the same issue. Although I will say the ending to episode 1, obviously I know these games, I mean, it's been out for a couple of years, but we're going to try to keep it as spoiler free as we can, unless we need to talk about specific things. And Zach, having not played it yet, if you have questions about it or something, that we'll try to answer as best we can. Also,
I do have questions, but we can get to that in a second. Let me. I do actually. How many gaming hours is each episode?
So
how much?
2.5 to 3.
Yeah,
right?
so
it's not very much.
That's a great question. That's part of why I don't like the idea of episodic gaming. Is these episodes are max, and that's if it max
main character.
Hilarious. That's if you're actually taking your time to experience every little tiny thing like I do. They're only 2, maybe 2.5 hours, and that's for just one episode. So the game itself is probably going to be maybe 8 to 10 hours, maybe
5 episodes. Yeah.
So it is already a shorter game, and then if you did actually parse that out by just the episodes as standalone themselves, they're quite short.
Yeah.
You could easily finish 1 episode per day.
Well, I did.
Yeah, or you could binge the whole game in a single day if you really wanted to.
Yeah, yesterday was when I actually played episode 2. I had played episode 1 the week before, but I was trying to balance playing Life is Strange and Pyre all at the same time because it's like I need to finish Pyre, because I really love it, but I also need to play Life is Strange because we're going to talk about it. And so I'd beaten episode 1 the week before, but then episode 2 I hadn't played yet, and so I started at like 11 o'clock yesterday. I called it work for the day yesterday, and played
Must
through.
Be nice.
Play through episode 2, and it took me like 2 to 2.5 hours.
Okay, so they're very short.
Yeah, they're definitely shorter. I mean, I would actually. The closest other comparison I can make would either be that this is a very similar game to Heavy Rain, but with kind of the more not melancholic, but definitely not upbeat. Yeah, the angsty kind of feeling of almost kind of Firewatch. It definitely gives me a lot of callback to Firewatch. Certain things about it make me think of that game, which for me is a very good thing.
Right.
So that's just something that I kind of have noticed as I've been playing through it.
So I tried actually. So after playing episode 2, and after episode 1 ended, I was like, okay, I'm solidly into this game. Episode 2 ended, and I'm like, they're keeping me on. I still really like this game. Yeah. And at that point, I even tried to talk Sam into playing it because I was telling her
she would love it.
So she tried it today and was not into it.
Come on, Sam.
She didn't like the how much she's like, I just want to be doing things, not listening to other people talk. She's not into the story side of the games as much.
That's the whole point of the story.
I know.
Sam.
I tried to sell it to her because she just watched and binged through the first season of that show Riverdale.
Oh,
which is like
it's also like
the retelling of
high school.
of the Archie comics and stuff.
Yeah,
right.
Gotcha.
And so I was telling her, and there were several story similarities that have come up between that series and this game, and I was like, it's basically Riverdale, just a little bit of like supernatural power thrown into it.
Also, Life is Strange came before Riverdale.
Exactly.
So the original game
So Riverdale
did come out,
is more like Life is Strange.
Yeah.
So there we go.
So
I tried that as a selling point. It got her interested at least. She sounded into it, but then when she actually came down to playing it, she prefers obviously games like Overcooked or Mario, things like that that are a little bit more fast paced and you're in the action immediately rather than a long story driven.
The shame. So just for everyone who doesn't know, the original Life is Strange came out in 2015.
Right.
So actually, I feel like that's a pretty good period of time between 2 different games.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like waiting at least 2 to 3 years between the first installment and the second is going to be one of the better ways to get to the audience that you originally had and potentially bring on a new audience.
And technically, Life is Strange Before the Storm is a prequel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
it's going to be really interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So, Zach, what do you know about this game?
I know. So I've compared it to Heavy Rain before. Now I've played the first episode of the Walking Dead series, and I'm assuming. So I haven't actually seen gameplay footage of Life is Strange. I've only seen images. I'm assuming it's a pick your own path sort of video game where you make various decisions, but you don't really actively interact with the character. Is that right? You don't move. Do you move the character at all?
You do move the character. You do move and like look around and find things. That's why I compared it to a point and click adventure of like the late 90s, where you do like move around in the room and there'll be various objects that you can interact with. And you'll go like pick up this or look at this item, play a disc in a stereo because your friend asks you to play it. Various things, and then you'll obviously have conversations, which those conversations you have to sometimes choose dialogue options like in an RPG. But the thing is with the episodic games, and I think it's even with Telltale games, I do want to make the distinction. Life is Strange is not developed by Telltale. It's Square Enix and Don't Nod Entertainment.
Yeah, and Don't Nod is a French studio.
Right.
Yeah.
Which they're coming out with something new, not to go too off topic, but it's like something completely different from Life is Strange. I think it might be Vampire.
Sure. Why not?
I'll look into that in a second when somebody else is talking. But anyway, so you do have, it's not like you're just stationary. You see things happening and you choose your path. And even in Walking Dead, I remember the first one, you had like some walking around, but it's not like your character is necessarily hacking at zombies or whatever. There are a couple of quick time events where you had to like push on the zombie or click on the zombie and he would shoot or whatever. But no, it's not like the typical open world RPG game where you're just walking around.
Yeah.
And, like,
No,
interacting with
and
things.
you're kind of missing the context. This is a much more protagonist-driven game. So it's not just like you're an ambiguous, unnamed person. You are the character.
You're a person.
Yeah, so your name is Max Caulfield, and you are a high school senior girl. So previously, you had lived in this town called Astoria, right?
Astoria Bay.
Yeah, Astoria
No.
Bay. No, you're right.
Arcadia Bay.
Arcadia
Bay.
It Arcadia Bay?
Yep.
I thought for sure it was Astoria
Wrong.
Bay. Anyway, so you live somewhere. The point is you live in Oregon. And so you are this girl, Max, and you used to live there.
Alternative music?
She does. Yeah, she really does.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later.
Yeah,
but
we'll get to that.
but
Just based off the images I saw, they seem pretty hip.
Oh, yeah.
Well, her friend Chloe, especially, is into like the punk rock scene and stuff like that.
Yeah, so anyways, when you lived in Arcadia Bay as a kid, you had this best friend, Chloe. But then you moved away for like 5 years to Seattle, I think it was. So the entire preface of this game is you've just recently come back to your hometown to attend this prestigious art school. So really the whole first episode is kind of, you're only a couple of weeks into being back at home. You're only a couple of weeks into being back at home, and you're basically meeting both new people and old people that you knew from when you lived there as a kid. So it's a mix of, hey, look at these sketch
like
new
it, probably a lot of
characters.
nostalgia.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely a more personified experience than just a nameless RPG kind of deal.
Right.
Okay.
And I was right. It is Vampire that Don't Nod is making, which is like this action RPG game set in 18th century London where you're a doctor who's combating his side as like a human and vampire. It looks pretty intense and fun.
Interesting.
So I'm looking forward to that game, actually. So it's just weird that they made this game, then they moved to Vampire, now they're going back to Life is Strange.
The French. What are you going to do?
They have their ways.
So let me ask: is the main story, like the crux of the story, is it based in sort of because you mentioned there's magical elements in this game? Is that right?
Right.
So is like without giving too much spoiler away, maybe there's no spoiler involved, but what is the main like catalyst that happens that makes you? Is it more you going through this school and like meeting friends and like being a person, or is it more like these supernatural things are coming and you have these powers that can stop them? Or somewhere in between.
Well, actually, I would say that it's a little bit of both because essentially at the start of the game, you're just an average teenage girl. So the game very much is heavily steeped in like over-dramatized high school, angst and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of like if you were watching any TV show that takes place in high school, it's that kind of ultra overblown drama where you're like, that doesn't really happen in real life, but I understand why you're doing it because it's for the entertainment value.
Is Blackwell Academy, is it a boarding school or a college? Because they have dorms that they live in, but they're also like 18, 19, which I guess is college.
I gather that it's a boarding school.
Okay.
So most prestigious art academies are often boarding school style. So I think it's like a private boarding school.
Okay. That's what I was thinking too. I was like, this seems like college, but also not because there's way too much high schoolish drama here.
But anyway, so the entire crux of the game and what really kicks off the action is at the very beginning of episode 1. So it's not really a spoiler.
No, it's literally as soon as it starts.
Yeah, it has to happen. So you basically witness a murder in progress. And
Whoa.
initially, your the person that you think is going to get killed does get killed. But then Max has this a defining moment where she realizes that she has time travel abilities, where she can quite literally rewind time. So she does it the first time by accident and thereby saves her friend. And she's like, oh my God, I have time travel powers. This is amazing. So it's the kind of thing where she can't go forward in time, but she can rewind time. So that's really kind of one of the primary story elements, and it's the primary gaming element. Because really the entire way that you are choosing to either progress or change your path in the game hinges on your time travel ability. Because if let's say you're presented with XYZ problem, you could go through managing that problem the first try through and just progress on from there. But let's say that at the end of that, you go, I don't really like the way I answered. I don't like
Usually
the outcome.
for me, it's conversations.
Yeah, it's conversations. You're like, I don't like the outcome of this. I wish I had done something differently. You literally just rewind time. And it has like a countdown kind of. So it's this spiraling countdown. So when you hit the rewind button, it will show you little dots on your timeline that are basically when a defining moment happened. So you can choose to either go all the way back to the beginning, or you can just go back a couple of steps, and then you can change your approach from there if you want to. So and it can actually change the outcome as well, because let's say that somebody tells you, hey, your fashion sense is really bad. And you rewind time and you go, hey, bitch, guess what? My fashion sense is great. Then they're suddenly all off balance. They're like, how did she know? So it can really kind of change both the outcome and the options available to you if you basically rewind time with new knowledge that you now have to approach that situation in the first place. So it's really interesting.
It is.
So is there a way, is it goal oriented? Like, will you rewind time if you were going away from the quote unquote like victory of the game?
So here's one. So here's one that's that kind of like shows a good use of the rewind with that's not too spoilery. There's one point where Max and her friend Chloe are going through this junkyard, and if you walk around to the specific area, these boards and this pile of junk starts to fall on you. When you first walk through it, it'll fall and hit you, but then it hits you and it freezes time, so then it gives you the option to rewind time. But whenever you rewind time from wherever you're standing. So it's not like you physically move back. So time rewinds so you can fix the junk, walk by it, and then it falls behind you, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So it kind of has this weird timing manipulation to it. As far as it doing it where it's like, okay, you got to rewind because you're screwing up the end story, I don't think there is that, because it's very much your actions and decisions influence the outcome. It's very similar to Until Dawn, where it is a butterfly effect stuff.
Yeah.
Is very much kind of the approach that it takes. The one thing I will say also that's kind of like the main end thing that you're trying to figure out, which is also at the very beginning, in fact, it's the opening cutscene of the game, is there's this massive... Max wakes up in the forest and sees this, and she's in a storm, and she's like, wait, how did I get here? I don't understand what's going on. Walks down this path toward a lighthouse she sees, and sees this massive tornado in the bay heading towards the town, and she's like, what? And then a boat is flung up from the tornado, hits the lighthouse, and then pieces of the lighthouse fall on her, and then she wakes up and she's in her art class at the school, and that's when she then starts figuring out, like, wait, something's weird. And so that's kind of like the end game story, or part of the end game story, is something bad is about to happen to the town, but she doesn't know if it's about to happen to the town. She doesn't know if it's just some weird dream. But then as events continue on, it becomes more clear that yes, something's going to happen. And it's more about figuring out the events while also dealing with like her friend who was whose murder she prevented, and the fallout of that, and then just other interactions with other people.
Yeah, and the setup of the game is really interesting because eventually, through one of these future visions, more or less, you discover by reading a newspaper that this event of the tornado is impending very soon. I think it's going to be essentially happening at the end of that week.
Right.
So actually, one of the few things that I do like about the episodes, I like to think of them more like chapters. They're more like chapter
I think they're
visits.
supposed to be a day.
Yeah, they're like each one day. So it's like you start on day one and all that stuff goes down. And then you're on day 2 and that's all of episode 2. So I do like that they are sticking with, no, these are contained days that are leading up to an ultimatum.
Right.
And that does certainly add to the mystery. I really like that you have this specter of this future event always kind of looming over you. Even though you don't really know what it is, you know that something horrible is going to happen in the very near future if you don't do something to stop it.
And on top of all this, there are posters everywhere around the school and the town for a missing girl, and it becomes clear that there have been several disappearances in the last few months and weeks and stuff like that. So that's just another further mystery onto all these things that are happening to you. Why did Max is thinking, why did I get this power now? Like, why did I just now discover I have this? How did I wind up saving my friend? What is the storm coming? And who is this missing person? Rachel Amber is that character's name. So I think, what about, so obviously we've talked about a lot of the good things that we do like about it. Like, I, for one, was very impressed with how much the time reversal capability has, and they slowly build on it. It's not just all at once, like with most games where you can reverse time and here's all the ways you can do with it, and so figure it out. It very slowly, like at first you can just rewind. Then you rewind and figure out that you can rewind and influence conversations.
Yeah.
Then you rewind and figure out you can influence actions. And then you figure out later that you can rewind and actually time travel in a sense where like you walk up right as something's about to fall, reverse the time so it resets and you can go forward and it falls behind you. So it's like this way of time traveling basically into the future.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because like Mogan said, you can never go into the future. You can only go into the past.
Yeah.
And so it just does provide a very interesting thing. And it's one feature also that I did like in relation to that is at the end of each chapter, it shows a rundown of all the choices you made and compares it to the rest of the world player base.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
It is, and actually, you can even compare it to your own friends.
That's right.
So, like, when I got to the end of chapter 1, I was like, hey, how did Jerrett play his game? And I was like, that loser. Look at all the wrong decisions he made.
We should compare our decisions.
We should compare. So it is actually really interesting because it'll give you, like, basically a whole list of all of the defining interactions that you had. And it'll be like, well, 30% of gamers did the same thing you did. Another 50% did something else. And the remaining 20% did something else. So it is a really interesting way to see like, oh, those were the other outcomes.
Yeah.
So it does kind of give you a bit of an incentive to eventually go back and replay the game to see how things would have transpired if you had done them totally differently.
Yep.
Let me ask this might be more specifically for Mogan because you already mentioned Firewatch, and we've both played Firewatch. With a game like Firewatch, and I think sounds like there's some similarities here. And though they're very different games, this might be an unfair question. But with Firewatch, I had a very emotional response to it, one that I still can remember very easily. Do you think Life is Strange has the same storytelling impact that a game like Firewatch had, or does it have more than that? Or is it a strong enough story for you to really think you're going to be thinking about this game for a while?
Yes. To compare it directly to Firewatch, I don't think it's a totally fair comparison because in Firewatch, you do kind of feel more like you're an observer to events. You have your interactions with Delilah, of course, but in large part, you're not really affecting the world at large. You're more uncovering a story from the past. Whereas with Life is Strange, you very much feel like you are the primary action maker. You are deciding how the game is going to finalize, and you are making all of the decisions that lead to the end of the game. So I would say that in the feeling of having control, Life is Strange is a much more active game. You're doing a lot more to actually progress, not only in terms of, hey, how am I going to get from point A to point B, but you're also making a lot more intense decisions of how am I going to interact with the world at large. Because what Life is Strange really has that Firewatch didn't is a very varied cast of characters. There are many different recurring characters that you interact with each episode. And some of them are a little bit more geared towards certain characters, and sometimes maybe someone isn't as prevalent in one episode, but it very much is a multifaceted relationship game. So in that respect, I would say that it is still very strong on story because it does make a big concerted effort to a huge huge effort to give each individual character a really fleshed out backstory and a very active current story in what is happening right here and now. So
you feel like you have a strong connection to Max.
At the end, I don't want to spoil the end of episode 2 because I did think that one was fantastic.
Yes.
So actually, just for a non-spoiler question, at the end of episode 2, did you succeed with helping your friend or did you fail?
I succeeded.
I failed.
Really?
I failed, yeah. And I was like, oh my God, no.
Oh, wow.
Like, I thought I was going to do it. I thought I was going to make it and, like, help my friend, and I didn't. And I failed. And I was like, well, I mean, I guess I could cheat and go back and access my old saves, but I was like, I don't want to. This is the path I've made. I have to stick to it. So
that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. See,
yeah,
so now I'm very interested now. We'll have to compare.
Yeah, I really want to know how our different paths are going to branch off because it seems like it's going to be a big deal that I failed and you succeeded.
So I had a previous... Man, God, I don't want to be spoilery,
we don't want to spoil
oh my God, like I want to get into this more because this is so interesting in how this happens. Oh God, I'm so excited now to see how this goes.
So as you can see, Zach, we're both really invested in the story, and I do think that you would like it.
I think you would.
Yeah, because of
how are you guys playing it on PlayStation?
Yeah.
PlayStation, but you can play it. PlayStation, it's for Xbox also, and you can play it on Steam even if you're a PC gamer.
And I swear to you, the definitive edition with all the episodes, I don't even think it's 20. I feel like it's 15 and under.
Okay.
Yeah, because when I bought it I think for only $15. So it's definitely something that's very financially accessible at this point.
Right.
So I really do think that you could potentially get a lot out of this game.
Well, and I mean, I'm only in episode 2, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm definitely going to play Before the Storm.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I already know I'm going to play it. Duh. Literally, duh.
And also the other part about it, which I have to give it, because talking about Before the Storm in this one, I am bummed because Chloe, the voice actress of Chloe, is Ashley Birch, who did the voice acting for Aloy in Horizon Zero Dawn.
Is it really?
Yeah. So I obviously have a connection with her character in that one, but I'm bummed because she will not be she is not going to be Chloe again because of the voice acting strike that the video game industry.
Oh no, that we talked about a year ago.
So she wasn't going to be. She wasn't able because of that to replay as Chloe.
That damn strike.
I know,
Although,
right?
You know, if it
Strikes. What are they
strike. Well, they're good for obviously the people who are striking. They're good for the vocal cords. I know virtually nothing about Life is Strange 2.
I don't either.
So I am actually.
I just know it's a prequel.
I'm interested to see by how much time, like how before these events is this going to be?
I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly from when they announced it at E3, it's the main characters are Chloe and Rachel.
Oh, okay. So it's before Rachel Amber disappeared.
Yes.
Ooh, spooky.
I know.
I'm really looking forward to it.
But I will say this about the story too. I was not, and it could have been because of the animation, the art style of the game. I was not prepared for how mature of a story it is.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's interesting that you say that because I have, a lot of other female gamer friends as well. And I was talking about Life is Strange with her, and she was like, "Oh, you're playing that game?" She's my same age. Okay. And I was like, "Yeah, why do you sound like you're hating on it already?" And she was like, "Oh, I just feel like from all the press that I saw about it, it was a really tween game." Like, she used the word tween, like that it was mainly targeted at really younger players. And I was like, "No, you're mistaken.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on here that you could definitely appreciate as a younger gamer, but that you can have a much more expanded insight on as an older gamer."
I would think it would be more impactful as an older gamer.
And you, for example, you never were at any point in time a teenage girl at a prestigious art academy. And although I was...
as far as you know.
As far as I know. Yeah, Jarrett's like, don't assume.
Did you just assume I did?
But I also was at one point a teenage girl. So even though I didn't have this super overly dramatic high school experience, I do feel like there are certain things that are very relevant to really the human experience.
Even if I had been a teenage girl, I wouldn't have experienced that because I was homeschooled. So, there you go.
There you go. That's a very good point. Touche. So I feel like even if you don't have the type of background that you might assume you would need to be able to enjoy this game, you absolutely still can.
Yeah.
I feel like because of the strength of the narrative, it's a very accessible game.
Well, just as a high level, again, trying not to avoid spoilers here, but it deals already with, obviously, bullying in a school setting, a murder, a gun in a school.
Yeah.
And then even
drugs everywhere,
date
man.
rape, and and depression. It's like it's all there already. And this is already episode 2.
Interesting.
And we're only 2/5 of the way through.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where this goes. So the new one, the prequel Before the Storm, comes out the end of this month.
Right,
Yes.
the 31st.
Right? Okay. And then when you don't know when the Life is Strange 2 is coming out.
I mean, I guess this is, for all intents and purposes, this is Life is Strange 2. It's just taking place before the events of the main game rather than after.
Okay.
So actually, in theory, you could play this one that's coming up, Life is Strange 2, the prequel, and still be able to get a lot out of it, because technically you wouldn't be missing anything because it was all stuff that happened in the future.
If anything, it's just going to fill in answers. It's more a prequel because it's going to fill in more answers.
Yeah.
And backstory for the people who have already played the first one. So if you played them in chronological order, you probably wouldn't be missing much.
Yeah. I will say, though, that the mystery that Life is Strange builds is very engaging. Like, I'm very much on the edge of my seat when I'm getting close to the end of an episode. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Because you can tell it's an end of an episode.
Yeah, like it's intense. And like when I got to the end of episode 2, I was like, what are the outcomes? How can it happen? And when I got to my ending, I was like, holy shit, I think I did it wrong.
See, I somewhat thought ahead and foreshadowed what the ending of episode 2 is going to be.
Well, my question when episode 2 immediately ended was, wow, was that the only option? And then when it got to my end screen and it showed me the stats, I was like, oh my God, it wasn't.
Yeah.
My ending could have been avoided. And I was like, oh my, I'm the worst Max. I'm the worst one.
Well, because it also tells you percentages of like who picked. So you can either be like, oh, I am in the minority.
It's like,
on this
wow, I
choice.
did it really wrong.
Yeah. So it just builds for such. It's a much more engaging narrative than I think I'd run into with these other
decision-based
games, and I really do see the impact of them. Until Dawn, like I said, was very similar in that case. Like I made a decision, and you either saw the result in your character living or dying immediately. But this one does. I feel like I am really building my own narrative with it.
And I think
which I know it's obviously going to follow, regardless, like you're going to follow a predetermined path that'll get you to a conclusion, but I'm still interested along the way to see how that builds.
And one of the biggest differences that I would say from what I've heard you talk about from Until Dawn versus Life is Strange is that in Life is Strange, you can make a decision that does not have an immediate impact.
Right.
You might not see the impact of your decision until, I made decisions in episode 1 that still haven't really been resolved in episode 2, and it's like, oh wow, that was an investment.
I've seen them touched on, but not like
they
full
may
on
have been
resolved.
touched on, but they haven't been resolved.
Yep.
So the decisions that you're making, you're absolutely making an investment in the way you're going to play the game.
Right.
So that's why when I made an initial decision in episode 1, I was like, no, I'm sticking my guns. That Nathan Prescott is bad news.
That
guy is a douche.
That's how I went with that too.
Yeah. So it's definitely
I think
not.
I'd play similar.
Yeah, you would like it. I really do think so.
I like these sort of, it sounds like you can obviously change your answers and go back in time, but I like the idea of basically like the Until Dawn game, like your decisions are the gameplay mechanics.
Right.
I do like these games a lot.
And I will say too, one thing I did, especially incorporating, because you like we said, you can have a conversation and then rewind and change it. I've been doing that with especially the major things because it does a good way of it doesn't, even regardless of which option you choose, you're still left with, was that really the right choice? There's never like a, I feel good about that.
Yeah, there's never like a definitive, you made the correct decision. You're always weighing your ambiguous options.
Yeah.
It's never like that went perfectly. It's always like, well, it went this way, but it also could have gone that way. And there's very much an equal footing of both choices.
And it really does sometimes have to come down to lesser of two evils. Like in your decision making and how you go with it. And there are some that like morally, the conclusion ends and like it may have not been met favorably with other characters or something like that. But I'm like, no, that was the right choice.
Yeah, it's like screw society. I was right.
That's when I was playing Firewatch. That was the first game that I remember ever playing in my, because I play in RPGs and games where you have to do conversations. It's very easy. I always thought like that's the correct answer,
right?
Or not even that. It's like that answer means good, that means bad. Both can be fine, but like I get it's very polarized.
Right.
When I played Firewatch, sounds like Life is Strange. Just like this is, I would I would have to think for a long time. And my meter would be running out. I'd be like, this is actually really well done.
Yeah.
Because I'm really like I was felt so much more in the moment of how do I really feel right now.
So one of the interesting differences between Firewatch and a game like Life is Strange is that technically in Life is Strange, for certain events, you can replay them as many times until you settle on a decision. Now, I think that the difference is really just what story you're trying to build, because, for example, I might approach one certain conversation and I want to see how all of the different routes end. I might have square, triangle, and circle all lead to a different answer, and I'll replay that same conversation all 3 times to see how each ends. What's interesting is I find that I personally will, once I've assessed all of the different options, I will most often go back to my original choice. And I'll say, nope, I was right the first time. Even though if right isn't necessarily the correct word, because you're never really right, it's just, no, my gut feeling
it's more of affirming.
Was for me the correct one the first time.
Right.
So it's not like you run out of time like you do in Firewatch. You have ample opportunity to go back and change your answer. What's interesting about this game is the emotional investment in it, because you tend to have more of an incentive in a lot of cases to change your answer or to not change your answer depending on what you picked the first time around. So it very much is a weighty game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Cool.
And then one thing too. So it's a little side thing, and I was looking at this because I wasn't popping trophies a lot, but every once in a while they'd come up, and I realized that the only trophies for this game. So the thing, Max is going to this school primarily to learn to be a photographer. So she's a photographer, and she
Zach, you're a photographer.
There you go.
You're basically Max Caulfield.
We can all relate, Jarrett.
Yeah, we're all right there. But and so so there are points in this where you can take a photo of something, and that for the PS4 player, and I'm sure the achievements are the same across Steam or Xbox, you only unlock trophies for taking these optional pictures. But the fun thing about it is sometimes you have to accomplish certain things either by going through a certain conversation string or finding a specific location based on these like hint photos, sketchings of the pictures that provide a hint. So it's a fun, just like little mini game in there. They're completely optional, have no effect on the story whatsoever, but they're these fun little mini games of getting these photos that will in then turn give you the trophies for the game.
Yeah. Did you get the picture of the squirrel?
That you give the food to?
I'm sorry,
in
what?
episode 1 or episode 2?
Episode 1.
Okay, I did not. I got the one in episode 2.
Sucker.
I actually didn't realize that that's what those were for until I was in episode 2 and then realized, oh, this is how I get trophies. Okay.
When you were in episode, I didn't realize it either. Like, and when I got to episode 2, I was like, oh, the sketches are hints.
Yeah.
I didn't immediately make that connection. I thought it was
entry-level tip for you new players of Life is Strange. The sketches are hints to pictures to be looking for.
That's what you should be looking for. Touche. So did you get in episode 2 the photo of the deer?
Yes.
And did you actually look at the photo?
I did.
Wasn't that cool? I was like, oh, it's spooky.
And we're dropping so many mysteries for you guys out there. Like, don't know what we're talking about. But really, like, I've enjoyed the story so much. It's one of those, I just don't want to spoil it for anybody because it's like, I've had so much fun. I knew nothing about this game other than I knew it was about teenage girls and friends looking. I knew it had something to do with a missing person and something to do with time travel.
I didn't even know it had anything to do with a missing person.
Oh, really?
I knew the time travel element, but that was it.
Yeah.
Like, actually, my understanding of the game was quite wrong at the end of it, because what I thought was going to happen going into the game was that your best friend Chloe would be the primary one to continually be in danger.
Right.
So I actually thought that saving Chloe was really kind of the only thing that you would be doing in every episode. Oh. And I was actually really surprised when episode 2 came around, and she was only really prevalent in episode 2 for a little bit of it.
Yeah.
And then she really kind of sidestepped, and it was all about this other character. And I was like, oh, that's a change I didn't know was going to be part of this game.
Right.
So obviously Chloe is one of the primary characters. She's on the cover art. She's all over it. But I am really pleased to see that the game is making so much of an investment in the side characters too.
Yeah, it is a really big thing. So another thing I think... Awkward pauses while we think.
Awkward pause. Well, considering the fact that we haven't finished it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's about as far as we can get right now.
Yeah,
without
really is.
Obviously just blatantly giving crap away.
Which I want to so
I
bad.
know, it's like I want to talk about all this stuff.
The only other thing that I was going to like touch on that of being like, this is really good, I really enjoy this aspect of it is, I mean, obviously big surprise, the music.
Oh.
You're not into it as much?
You know what's interesting? That's probably my biggest con.
Really?
Yeah, it probably is.
Wow.
Every time one of those playlisty kind of sequences comes up where it's all of this like folksy, hipster music, I'm like, oh boy.
I will say this. I'm not a fan. The music reminds me very much of, especially when there's songs with lyrics, reminds me of Bon Iver. And I'm not a fan of Bon Iver.
It does. That's a really good comparison.
I'm not a fan of that. I was more just talking about the instrumental stuff. Normally in games, movies, whatever it is, if they have a song that was like specifically written, let's all give a big callback and remembrance to the Paul McCartney written song for Destiny that was fucking terrible. But so normally those, I always find songs written specifically for a thing or to fit into something like that are to be especially campy. So I know some of the music that they have for this is licensed out from other artists, but I'm just not a big fan of that. I was more talking about just the instrumental stuff of it.
Yeah,
it's just a very slowly played, slowly strummed guitar, or not even strummed, just like I don't know, plucking. Thank you, of a guitar, some piano in the background, but it's. I don't know. Maybe it's just it's a mixture of the music with the setting, but it feels very Pacific Northwest.
It does,
and it also portrays, maybe it is a little bit because due to the Bon Iver style lyrical music too. It does give a very teenage angst feel to it also.
Yeah,
I think it all just helps build the world.
It does help build the world, but like that's actually one of the primary things that I continuously find myself, and this is part of like my personality. I'm going, really? Come on, everybody suck it up. It's not that bad. You're going to still go to school tomorrow. You're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And like I think that's more me and like my reaction to these situations. I'm like, this is ridiculous. No one's bringing guns to school. What kind of school is this?
Well, I mean, they do.
They do, but not necessarily be at prestigious art academies.
Yeah.
And some of the storytelling elements I do think are so overblown and in some cases a little contrived that I'm like, oh, that's a little bit of a bummer, just that seems so overdone. But even then, it's not something that is necessarily a turn off.
Right.
It's just a very brief like, oh, well, but then you continue and you get back on track and you're like, never mind, I still love this game. It's excellent.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of how I feel about it too. It's just one of those things. I think the score was appropriately chosen for what it is. I think if they had done like these huge or like more orchestral pieces in the background, it wouldn't have been more. It would not have fit.
Or even like
all.
Techno or anything like that. It would have been awful.
Yeah, but so there's just a slightly. I've really appreciated the subtleness of the soundtrack. I will say.
Me too.
Been enforcing to the story when need be.
And one of the small technical things that I've noticed, and this really is so closely unavoidable that it's not even really something that's big, that is that big of a deal. But with this originally being a French game, obviously all of the voiceovers are translations. And part of that does occasionally mean that sometimes character dialogue will be happening, and maybe like it doesn't match up with the gesturing or the body language of the characters. Like sometimes I'll see that like their face is moving, but it's not really matching what the dialogue is. And that's not really like their fault because it's a translation, but it does occasionally take me out of the story a little bit.
Yeah. I will say that the animations can be seem clunky at times. I just attributed that to the art style necessarily. As being that's what it was. They weren't going for a super realistic look anyway. And so that's more of why I just am able to be like, okay, that's just the art style and move past it a little bit.
When I next play it through, I want to do it in French.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I want to do the game in the original French, just because. I just want to see what happens.
Yeah,
see what happens.
Yeah, just want to see what happens.
All the wrong decisions.
All the wrong decisions. I'm like, wow, France is brutal.
All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps up our talking about Life is Strange. Obviously, as we've sung its praises enough in this episode, we highly recommend that other people play it. Granted, our opinion could change by episode 5. We can get to episode 5 and be like, this sucks.
When we're actually finished with it, I do want us to do a spoiler-heavy episode where we talk about everything that happened without having to beat around the bush, because I have so many things that I already want to talk about. We can't because we don't want to spoil it. So anyone who hasn't played Life is Strange yet, now is your time. Play it now. It's a short game. You absolutely can finish it before the new one comes out. That way, when Life is Strange 2 does hit, you're going to be right there with it.
Yep.
One more small thing.
Okay.
Did you notice? I don't know why this is. I actually would really like more backstory on how this particular thing made it into Life is Strange. It is jam-packed with references to Twin Peaks.
Okay, I've not seen Twin Peaks.
Did you notice? Oh, so you didn't know?
Those are probably going right
So
over my
actually,
head.
I bring this up primarily
Brandon,
because...
have you played it?
Yeah. No, see, that's the thing. I was like, hey, I know somebody that loves Twin Peaks and video games.
Yep.
So in case you were wondering, there are... actually, Chloe's truck, her front license plate is Twin Peaks abbreviated.
Oh, what?
Like, yeah, you may not have noticed. It was very fast. It was like, front license plate.
Yeah, no.
It's Twin Peaks.
See, I probably would not have caught that at all.
And then like on like tickets and little like posters and just kind of all throughout the world, you'll see it scrawled on bathroom walls and stuff.
Wow.
And they keep coming back to the phrase that was very prevalent in the show Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. You've probably seen
so
it.
I saw
yeah,
the hint
you saw
for
it
the
in
photo.
the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place. So Fire Walk with Me, which was actually even from Twin Peaks, the show, they also made a prequel movie after Twin Peaks ended that was strictly called Fire Walk with Me because it was such a big thing from the original show. So I don't know who at Don't Nod was like, I love Twin Peaks and it's going to be everywhere in this game and no one can stop me, but it is all over the place. I would be interested to see if you play it again a second time, how many times you notice it.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to like
now that
keep
I know
track.
to look for it, and I might
Yeah.
look for it now into the future episodes
Yeah.
because I have a better
Oh, it
idea
hasn't
to look
stopped.
for it.
It's still
So,
there.
yeah,
So,
it'll
like,
still be
I'm
there.
really interested. And actually,
interesting and
so
really
Twin
cool.
Peaks kind of all hinged on the disappearance / murder of a teenage girl too.
So maybe this game was completely
Oh my
inspired
God!
by
The dots are
Peaks.
connecting, you
All
guys.
one universe.
Okay, so now I do need Brandon to play this game.
Yeah, we need his input.
We're calling you out, Brandon. Play Life is Strange if you have not already. If you have,
I feel
obviously
like it's
tell
the
us how you
kind
feel
of game
about it.
he may have already played.
Okay.
I want him
Well-
to weigh in.
Well, so yeah, Brandon, we need your input on this as a Twin Peaks fan and hopefully a Life is Strange fan. But anyway, so yeah, we will do a wrap-up conclusion to the whole game when we finish it as well. But we'll go ahead and let you know now. It will have spoilers in it because
Many.
we want to be able to
So
go through
many.
everything about it. Maybe we'll release it as like a bonus-ode or something like that.
Yeah.
So that way it's not like
That way we can
so
just
that way we don't
hash it
turn
out.
away our like half our listeners like, well, I haven't played it yet.
It's
Damn.
like, sorry, everybody. It's been 2 years. They had plenty
I
of
know,
time.
I know, but there are still games that came out 2 years ago that I wouldn't want spoiled. So
True,
let's
true.
just be considerate. That's all we ask. All right, Zach, we have been talking a lot. I know you've been
Yes.
traveling, but
Yes.
is there anything big gaming or game that you've been playing that you want to talk about for a little bit too before we wrap this one up?
Oh man, has there been anything? No, I've had no time. I've
Yeah.
really had no time.
I mean,
Then
you've been on the
played
road and
everything.
you've been working nonstop. So
Yeah, I know.
I just
I
wanted
know.
to check
the last
in,
thing
you
that
know.
we were talking about was what Metal Gear,
Yeah.
and I'm still thinking about. Well, I still really want to get back into that. Another game that I really, and this kind of was with Metal Gear, was Fallout 4. I really want to replay Fallout 4.
Well,
But I'd rather play Life is Strange. I actually want to play this. You guys have convinced me that this is
Yes.
a
Dude, you
game
need
worth
to play this
purchasing.
game.
And I want you to get to where we are. You can do it.
Yeah.
You can do it in one
Yeah.
night, man. Catch up.
I know. I gotta do it. I'm like Googling stuff right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super good. Like I was
We'll tap into the Team Chad Trust Fund.
That's right.
get in this game.
Get him this
Funny.
game.
Awesome. All right, well then I guess we'll just go ahead and wrap it up there for today.
I do have a bit of moment with Mogan.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, indeed.
I got so
How
into
dare
it.
you
I
cut me off,
apologize.
sir?
I apologize. I'm
Anyways.
sorry. I'll sit in my corner.
So as of this episode, sit in your corner. As of this episode's airing on August 15th, a couple of things are out now. So we have Agents of Mayhem for PS4, Xbox One, and PC. We have Matterfall for PS4. That's an exclusive at this time. Night Trap 25th Anniversary coming out for
Oh, yeah. Night Trap.
Yeah, coming out for PS4 and PC. We also have Observer, which is an interesting game.
that one
I-
looks interesting,
Yeah,
too.
I've seen some cool stuff about Observer.
Well, and it's got Rutger Hauer as the
Yeah.
main star of the game.
Yeah, I'm really. I might have to take a closer look at that one. That's coming out for PS4, Xbox One, and PC again. And then we actually kind of briefly touched on it in the most recent music-sode.
Okay.
Sonic Mania.
Oh, right, because you
which
played the
is-
Hyper Potions.
Yeah, Hyper Potions did the trailer music for Sonic Mania, and that game is officially launching for PS4, Xbox One, Switch,
Ooh.
and PC.
I'll probably get
August
that for Switch.
15th. Yeah, so it's a smaller game, but it's Sonic. Zach,
Who
you
doesn't
love
love
Yeah,
Sonic.
you gotta love Sonic.
How do you not?
You have to get it.
And then coming soon, we have a bit more stuff as well. We have The Escapist 2. That's PS4, Xbox, and PC, August 22nd. Chromagun for PS4, August 22 as well. And Guardians of the Galaxy, The Telltale Series, Episode 3 for almost everything. PS4, PS3, Xbox One, Xbox 360, and iOS coming out August 22nd. What the hell? Oh, and
No, I get it. Plenty of people still playing those consoles.
Uncharted: The Lost Legacy comes out
Looks good.
for PS4.
It looks so good.
August 22nd. I will not be wasting my money.
Oh, no.
So
I'll be playing.
you can play it and let me know.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, boo! Uncharted blows. End of moment with Mogan. Boo.
Ooh. I'm downloading Steam right now.
Hell yeah. Get that Steam. I can't believe you haven't had it yet.
You know, I'm willing to bet it's probably on sale, isn't it? Because
Most
like
likely.
Steam summer sales are like still kind of going on. So if anything, you're bound to
Or
get it cheap.
Just put it in your wish list. Steam will send you an email when it goes on sale really cheap.
Yeah.
It says I
But
can
we need you to
for free,
play it
but
on the now.
Yeah.
So chop chop.
If you could
Create
do that,
new
that'd be
account.
great.
That'd be
You
great.
could turn in that
Like,
TC.
I'm making a Steam account right now.
Sweet.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
All right, I think that closes us out.
Okay, well, so before though, I did want to touch on this too. It's a game that came out last 2 weeks, I guess, by the time this episode that I've heard and seen snippets of, but now that it's out and I'm seeing so much more of it, I am so excited to play it, and I want to play it really, 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 really bad. Is Hellblade: Sinuous Sacrifice.
Oh yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about that game
So it's
recently.
a PS4 exclusive, and it deals. Sorry, Zach. Should buy that
Bummer.
PS4 sometime, you know. So it's a PS4 exclusive, but it's single player only. It's only $30,
Okay.
brand new. And what it is basically is a Viking warrior is going through. A loved one of hers recently. Sorry, I'm butchering this. A loved one of hers recently was killed or died, and she is battling. Basically, I guess it falls into a deep, deep depression, going basically and battling through hell to try to save her love or find peace with his departure. But anyway, so it's all about like this huge. It's set in like a Valhalla-esque place, but obviously the bad side of Valhalla. And
The bad side of Valhalla. The wrong side of the Valhalla
side you don't wanna
tracks.
go
I thought it was all good.
but
I thought it was all good.
yeah, again,
That sounds like the story of
slightly,
Orpheus.
slightly butchering this.
Yeah.
Butchering it because like I said, I haven't played it yet. I just really want to. But the game looks, for one, beautiful. Like
Is that the woman with the blue face
Yes.
paint? Oh, so I have seen this game. Yes,
it looks
yes.
ridiculously beautiful in the art style.
Nice.
Incredibly realistic, but then also in this very like it's obviously like supposed to delve a little bit and like represent her mental suffering and stuff. So there's a lot of like really like shadowy, demonic looking figures and everything.
Figures.
Figures. And everything that you battle and in combat and come up against. You also have to do these things with runes, like aligning objects into a specific shape to be a rune to like unlock the next place
so
or
it's
something like that.
Semi-puzzler.
Semi-puzzler, but it's a
okay.
third-person action game, and I don't know, just something about it is so striking, and I just have
All right.
I have to play it now.
Yeah,
It's-
I would be interested to check that out some more. That game already came out,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, and it's just I think it's on Steam for PC and PS4, but yeah, so it just came out, and it's one of these. Like I said, I'd seen little bits of it here and there, and now that it's out, I'm just like, oh my god, I have to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the whole point of marketing.
Yeah.
Good
so
work.
yeah, good work. It looks great. But I have to finish Pyre, and now
Life is
I'm
Strange.
all into Life is
Yeah,
Strange.
yeah.
So it'll have to wait. till
Well,
after
one of
this.
those is a much easier to finish game.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I'm already like 70% done with Pyre too.
Nice.
So I'll be there soon.
Knocking out some backlog games.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Getting ready for all the big fall releases.
Yeah, we
They're-
need to clean
They're
faster.
upcoming. Oh,
Yeah.
when does the Super Mario and Rabbids?
Not until the Rabbids one.
That's August too, isn't it?
Is it?
Pretty sure it is. I think
Oh, if it is.
maybe early October.
I will go on ahead and say that that's one of the games that I'm not. Oh, yeah, August 29th.
Oh, okay. So it would have been next week.
Yeah, so the end of the month.
with
Mario
Mogan. Okay.
plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle will eventually be coming out for the Switch August 29th.
That one looks fun. Not one that I necessarily need to have. As soon
It
as
does
comes
look
out.
fun, but I think I'm going to save my money for other games coming further down the line.
Yep.
For a minute, I thought you were going to be talking about Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, that's
and I was
not
like,
till,
no,
like,
no,
October,
November. It's November.
So yeah. So, all right. I think that now officially closes out this episode. But before we go, we do have our song hint for this episode given to us by our good friend Brandon Weaver. His hint is, this galactic traveler was once voiced by Lawrence Fishburne.
Ooh.
One more time. This galactic traveler was once voiced by Lawrence Fishburne.
I bet it's Olimar.
It's actually a good trivia hint question.
Yeah, that's a
I know,
good
right?
one.
That's a
are
good
always,
trivia base one.
Cryptic
Yeah.
and silly. That was actually like a nice Jeopardy question.
Not these hints like aye, maybe, that are spot on to what the game is. Although you still told me that you didn't think anyone would get the game. And
Yeah,
Dylan
I
ca-
did.
and
They did. Dylan.
Dylan
Darn
came
that
right
guy.
right out of the gate.
Right.
As soon as the post went up, he was on top
Yeah,
of
he
it.
was on it. He was,
ready to go. All right, well, the song contest goes live Wednesdays, 9 a.m. the day after this episode airs. We put out a post on our Facebook and Twitter page at 9 a.m. on the Wednesday. The first person to correctly guess the game in the hints in the comments or in replying to the post will be able to send us a song and hint for a future episode, just like Brandon did in this episode.
Boom.
All right, well, that concludes this episode of Team Chat Podcast. Until next time, I'm one of your hosts, Jarrett Wilson, joined to my right by Rachel Mogan,
Sayonara.
and to my left, virtually through the power of the interwebs, Zachary Parks.
That's right. Peace out.
All right, we'll see you all next time. Stick around for the song.